Commander Alina Reyes maintained her composure as the delegation of alien officials surrounded her at the docking bay. Their translators struggled to keep pace with the overlapping questions firing at her from all directions. The tallest among them, a spindly mergen with iridescent scales that caught the station's artificial light, stepped forward. "I am Chief Xenotechnologist Salthric," she introduced herself, mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. "Your propulsion signature defies established progression models. We must understand how your species achieved this." Alina exchanged a glance with her engineer, Lieutenant Sato, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. They had rehearsed this scenario dozens of times. "Our railgun propulsion system," Alina replied with practiced nonchalance. "It's hardly cutting-edge technology by our standards. We've been using electromagnetic acceleration for nearly a century." The gathered officials erupted into chittering conversations, their universal translators creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Alina caught fragments about impossible development timelines and progression violation among the noise. Zalthric silenced the group with a sharp gesture. "Commander Reyes, perhaps you misunderstand the significance. No species has ever developed practical electromagnetic acceleration for spacecraft maneuvering without first mastering graviton field manipulation. It's simply not possible according to established scientific consensus." Alina shrugged, the motion slightly exaggerated in her environment suit. "Maybe your consensus needs updating. We found electromagnetic acceleration to be the most efficient solution given Earth's resources and physics." As the officials huddled to discuss this development, Alina activated her neural implant with a subtle eye movement, connecting to the *Rickenbacker's secure network. "Status report, she subvocalized. Dr. Abernathy's voice responded instantly in her mind. "False, bulkheads holding. Their scans haven't penetrated our shielding. The prototype remains secure any unusual activity they're scanning extensively, but nothing beyond expected protocols. Typical customs inspection patterns, just more thorough Elena maintained her pleasant expression while inwardly calculating risks. The teleportation device, hidden behind quadruple-layered security measures, represented humanity's true technological leap, one that would make these aliens' current astonishment seem quaint by comparison. Zalthric approached again, this time accompanied by a floating spherical device that pulsed with soft blue light. "Commander, the Concordat Science Council requests permission to send a technical delegation aboard your vessel to observe your propulsion systems in operation. This is merely scientific curiosity, I assure you." Elena had anticipated this request. "Of course. We're happy to share basic principles of our technology as a gesture of good faith. Lieutenant Sato will escort your team through the approved sections." The emphasis on approved wasn't subtle, but it established boundaries. The Concordat representatives would see exactly what humanity wanted them to see, impressive but ultimately conventional applications of railgun technology, while the teleportation prototype remained hidden. As the inspection team departed with Sato, Zalthric lingered behind. "Your species has achieved in 2 centuries what most take 5 to develop," she observed, her multifaceted eyes studying Elena's reactions. "The Concordat will be very interested in understanding how humans approach scientific discovery." "We're resourceful," Elena replied simply. "And sometimes limitations breed innovation. When you can't manipulate gravity directly, you find alternatives." Zalthric's translator couldn't quite capture the nuance of her response, something between fascination and discomfort. "Indeed, perhaps limitations have unintended consequences." She paused before adding, "The Concordat's progression models have predicted technological development with 99.7% accuracy across 43 species. Until now." After Zalthric departed, Elena retreated to her private quarters and activated the quantum-encrypted channel to Earth's Unified Space Command. "This is Commander Reyes. First contact proceeding as expected." Their fixation on our propulsion systems is providing excellent cover. Recommend accelerating Phase 2 while their attention remains on railgun technology." The response came after a brief delay. "Understood, Commander. The Helios Teleportation Initiative has been advanced to field testing. Hold position and maintain cover protocol." Elena switched off the communicator and gazed out her viewport at the bustling alien station. Hundreds of spacecraft from dozens of civilizations moved through the complex docking patterns, all using variations of gravitational manipulation technology. Asterisk, they have no idea what's coming, asterisk, she thought. Asterisk, everything they know about technological advancement is about to change, asterisk. Dr. Marcus Wade pressed himself against the cold laboratory wall, pulse pounding in his ears. Through the security feed projected directly onto his retinal implant, he watched the 3 Voskin infiltrators move with disturbing fluidity through the facility's main research chamber. Their chameleonic skin shifted patterns to match the surrounding environment, rendering them nearly invisible to standard surveillance. "How did they get past the quantum mesh?" he whispered. Chief Okafor's voice came through his earpiece with remarkable calm. "They're using some kind of phase-shifting technology. It's creating microsecond gaps in our security grid." Wade swallowed hard. "And we're just going to let them take it? Everything we've worked for?" "Not exactly," Okafor replied, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "The modified blueprints are already loaded. Dr. Catri's team finished the alterations an hour ago. These thieves are getting exactly what we prepared for them." On the feed, the lead infiltrator had reached the main data core. Its elongated fingers, too many joints, Wade thought with involuntary revulsion, connected some kind of bypass device to the security lock. "Impressive technology," Okafor commented, "but predictable. They're using standard Concordat encryption protocols." The infiltrator's device pulsed, and the data core's access panel slid open. Wade watched as the alien extracted what appeared to be a standard data crystal and inserted it into a port on its forearm. The download began immediately. "Tracking package activated," one of Okafor's technicians reported from the security center. "Signature logged and following." Wade's anxiety didn't diminish. "If they realize what we've done." "They won't," Okafor interrupted. "Not until they're well beyond Earth's orbital defense grid. By then, it'll be too late." The Voskins completed their data theft with practiced efficiency, leaving no trace except the activated security protocols now hidden within the stolen files. As they prepared to exit through the same route they'd entered, Wade noticed something troubling. "Amara, they're heading toward Section 7. That wasn't part of their approach vector." Okafor's voice sharpened. "Damn it. The prototype chamber. Override authorization Okafor Delta 9. Seal all access points to Section 7 immediately." Emergency barriers slammed into place throughout the facility, the sudden activation causing the infiltrators to freeze momentarily. Their skin rippled with patterns that Wade recognized as their species' equivalent of alarm. "They know we've spotted them," he said, already moving toward the emergency evacuation route. "Should we trigger the countermeasures?" "Not yet." Okafor's voice was tight with concentration. "We need to know if they're after the teleportation technology specifically, or if they just happened to choose that escape route." The lead Voskin produced a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. The nearby emergency barrier began to dissolve at the molecular level. "That answers that question," Wade muttered. "They know exactly what we're working on." "Agreed." Initiating Countermeasure Protocol 3. Throughout the facility, hidden emitters activated, flooding specific corridors with a carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulse. The Voskins' equipment sparked and failed, their chameleonic skin freezing in mid-pattern. "Paralytic field holding," a technician reported. "Their neural systems are temporarily disrupted." Wade exhaled slowly, tension still coiled in his muscles. "How long?" 3 minutes, maybe 4. Enough time for the security team to reach them. Across the planet at the Concordat diplomatic reception, Dr. Ileana Chen sipped from a flute of synthesized champagne, maintaining her polite smile despite growing unease. Zalthric had cornered her near a display of ceremonial artifacts, the Mersian scientist's questions becoming increasingly pointed. "Your species' approach to propulsion is fascinating," Zalthric said, mandibles twitching in what Chen had learned indicated intense curiosity. "But surely you've explored other applications of electromagnetic acceleration." Chen kept her expression neutral. "Of course. It's foundational technology with numerous applications, including matter transmission, perhaps," Zalthric suggested, her multifaceted eyes glittering. Chen's grip tightened imperceptibly on her glass. "Theoretical research only. The energy requirements make practical applications impossible." "Interesting." Zalthric's translator couldn't quite capture the skeptical undertone. Several concordat species reached similar conclusions before developing gravitational folding for transportation. Before Chen could formulate a suitably vague response, her neural implant vibrated with an incoming priority message. The text flashed across her field of vision. *TELEPORTTSTZUCCESSFUO Living sub GTT trans MITTD Everything Chi KNG is Tomemo Oro asterisk. Chen's heart raced, but decades of diplomatic training kept her expression controlled. She needed to extract herself from this conversation immediately. "If you'll excuse me," she said smoothly, "I'm required for a consultation with our ambassador." As she turned away, Zalthric's words followed her. "Dr. Chen, the Concordat has encountered many species throughout its history. Those that followed expected paths were welcomed. Those that didn't." The Mersian left the implication hanging, her mandibles now completely still. Chen didn't look back as she moved through the crowded reception hall, her mind racing with implications. Humanity's technological divergence wasn't just scientific curiosity to these beings. It represented something they feared. Marcus Wade pressed himself against the cold laboratory wall, pulse pounding in his ears. Through the security feed projected directly onto his retinal implant, he watched the 3 Voskin infiltrators move with disturbing fluidity through the facility's main research chamber. Their chameleonic skin shifted patterns to match the surrounding environment, rendering them nearly invisible to standard surveillance. "How did they get past the quantum mesh?" he whispered. Chief Okafor's voice came through his earpiece with remarkable calm. "They're using some kind of phase-shifting technology. It's creating microsecond gaps in our security grid." Wade swallowed hard. "And we're just going to let them take it? Everything we've worked for?" "Not exactly," Okafor replied, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "The modified blueprints are already loaded. Dr. Catri's team finished the alterations an hour ago. These thieves are getting exactly what we prepared for them." On the feed, the lead infiltrator had reached the main data core. Its elongated fingers, too many joints, Wade thought with involuntary revulsion, connected some kind of bypass device to the security lock. "Impressive technology," Okafor commented, "but predictable. They're using standard Concordat encryption protocols." The infiltrator's device pulsed, and the data core's access panel slid open. Wade watched as the alien extracted what appeared to be a standard data crystal and inserted it into a port on its forearm. The download began immediately. "Tracking package activated," one of Okafor's technicians reported from the security center. "Signature logged and following." Wade's anxiety didn't diminish. "If they realize what we've done." "They won't," Okafor interrupted. "Not until they're well beyond Earth's orbital defense grid. By then, it'll be too late." The Voskins completed their data theft with practiced efficiency, leaving no trace except the activated security protocols now hidden within the stolen files. As they prepared to exit through the same route they'd entered, Wade noticed something troubling. "Amara, they're heading toward Section 7. That wasn't part of their approach vector." Okafor's voice sharpened. "Damn it. The prototype chamber. Override authorization Okafor Delta 9. Seal all access points to Section 7 immediately." Emergency barriers slammed into place throughout the facility, the sudden activation causing the infiltrators to freeze momentarily. Their skin rippled with patterns that Wade recognized as their species' equivalent of alarm. "They know we've spotted them," he said, already moving toward the emergency evacuation route. "Should we trigger the countermeasures?" "Not yet." Okafor's voice was tight with concentration. "We need to know if they're after the teleportation technology specifically, or if they just happened to choose that escape route." The lead Voskin produced a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. The nearby emergency barrier began to dissolve at the molecular level. "That answers that question," Wade muttered. "They know exactly what we're working on." "Agreed." Initiating Countermeasure Protocol 3. Throughout the facility, hidden emitters activated, flooding specific corridors with a carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulse. The Voskins' equipment sparked and failed, their chameleonic skin freezing in mid-pattern. "Paralytic field holding," a technician reported. "Their neural systems are temporarily disrupted." Wade exhaled slowly, tension still coiled in his muscles. How long? 3 minutes, maybe 4. Enough time for the security team to reach them. Across the planet at the Concordat diplomatic reception, Dr. Ileana Chen sipped from a flute of synthesized champagne, maintaining her polite smile despite growing unease. Zelthric had cornered her near a display of ceremonial artifacts, the Mersian scientist's questions becoming increasingly pointed. "Your species' approach to propulsion is fascinating," Zelthric said, mandibles twitching in what Chen had learned indicated intense curiosity. "But surely you've explored other applications of electromagnetic acceleration." Chen kept her expression neutral. "Of course. It's foundational technology with numerous applications, including matter transmission, perhaps," Zelthric suggested, her multifaceted eyes glittering. Chen's grip tightened imperceptibly on her glass. "Theoretical research only. The energy requirements make practical applications impossible." "Interesting." Zelthric's translator couldn't quite capture the skeptical undertone. Several Concordat species reached similar conclusions before developing gravitational folding for transportation. Before Chen could formulate a suitably vague response, her neural implant vibrated with an incoming priority message. The text flashed across her field of vision. Asterisk TLEPORTTSTUCCE living sub GTT train enzyme ITTD everything. She is to memo or o asterisk. Chen's heart raced, but decades of diplomatic training kept her expression controlled. She needed to extract herself from this conversation immediately. "If you'll excuse me," she said smoothly, "I'm required for a consultation with our ambassador." As she turned away, Zelthric's words followed her. "Dr. Chen, the Concordat has encountered many species throughout its history. Those that followed expected paths were welcomed. Those that didn't." The Mersian left the implication hanging, her mandibles now completely still. Chen didn't look back as she moved through the crowded reception hall, her mind racing with implications. Humanity's technological divergence wasn't just scientific curiosity to these beings. It represented something they feared. Dr. Wade monitored the final calibrations with unwavering focus, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The underground facility hummed with restrained energy as capacitors charged to previously untested levels. "Electromagnetic field stability at 97%, announced lead engineer Patel, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Quantum alignment proceeding as expected." From their observation platform, Admiral Zhang of Earth's Unified Defense Command watched with arms folded across his chest. Beside him, the Concordat delegation maintained a studied professional distance, their varied anatomies arranged in what passed for attentive postures among their species. "The pod contains standard medical supplies?" asked the Voskin representative, Admiral Kex4. His tone suggested he expected deception. "As agreed," Admiral Zhang replied evenly. "Synthetic blood, regeneration compounds, and basic surgical equipment, all documented and verified by your inspection team." Wade fought to keep his expression neutral. None of the observers, human or alien, knew that the orbital medical station wasn't the true target. Only he, Commander Reyes, Dr. Chen, and Admiral Zhang were aware of the actual destination. Initiating final sequence, Wade announced. Transport commencing in 30 seconds. The reinforced pod gleamed under the harsh laboratory lights, its surface etched with electromagnetic focusing arrays developed through thousands of simulation hours. Inside, pressure sensors and recording equipment would document every microsecond of the journey. 15 seconds. The Polarian observer's crystalline exoskeleton vibrated slightly, a sign of anticipation or nervousness. Wade couldn't tell which. 10 seconds. Electromagnetic field at full capacity. The air in the chamber became charged, raising the fine hairs on every human present. Several of the alien observers extended specialized sensory organs, their scientific curiosity temporarily overriding diplomatic caution. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The pod didn't disappear with a dramatic flash. Instead, it simply ceased to exist in one location, the transition so smooth it took the observer's brains a moment to process the absence. Immediately, the main display activated, showing the expected feed from the orbital medical station. The receiving pad remained conspicuously empty. "It appears your demonstration has failed," Admiral Kex-4 noted, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned indicated satisfaction. Admiral Zhang merely checked his timepiece. "I recommend we wait another 30 seconds before drawing conclusions." The Voskin representative made a dismissive gesture. "Matter cannot simply be lost in transit, Admiral. If your device has atomized valuable medical supplies, the Concordat Safety Council will need to." His statement cut off abruptly as every personal communication device in the room simultaneously activated. The screens displayed a live feed from the Jupiter Therapeutic Colony, where medical staff were already unloading supplies from the pod that had materialized in the receiving bay, 16,000 times farther than the supposed destination. "What is the meaning of this deception?" Kex-4 demanded, his translator struggling to modulate the emotional overtones in his native speech. Admiral Zhang's expression remained carefully neutral. "Not deception, Admiral. A demonstration of capabilities beyond what we believed you would accept as possible. Had we stated the actual destination, would you have believed us?" The gathered aliens exchanged glances loaded with meanings no human translator could fully capture. Their worldview was being challenged in real time. Before any could respond, Commander Reyes stepped forward onto the teleportation platform, her uniform crisp and her expression resolute. "Now for the real demonstration," she announced. The confidence in her voice sent a shiver of pride through Wade. They had rehearsed this moment for months. "Commander Reyes, you are not authorized to." Admiral Kex-4 began. "The commander has full authorization," Admiral Zhang interrupted. "Please observe the displays." The machine hummed to life around Reyes, the electromagnetic fields building rapidly. This time, the teleportation effect was visible, a brief shimmer like heat distortion, and she was gone. Seconds later, the main display split into 5 separate feeds, showing Commander Reyes materializing simultaneously at research stations across the solar system: Mars Base, Europa Station, the Titan Observatory, the Venus Cloud Platform, and the Kuiper Belt Outpost. The holographic Reyes smiled at the stunned audience before her images spoke in perfect unison. "We call it quantum bifurcation. One traveler, multiple destinations, and we've only just begun understanding the implications." Wade watched the Concordat representatives' reactions with carefully concealed satisfaction. The Voskin Admiral's membranes had paled to an almost translucent state, a physiological indication of extreme shock. The Polarian representative's crystalline structure was vibrating at frequencies that indicated intense information processing. Only the ancient Sephiran delegate Laxu showed no visible reaction, though its thought tendrils pulsed with colors Wade couldn't interpret. "This technology," Admiral Zhang stated into the stunned silence, "renders traditional hyperspace travel obsolete. No receiving stations, no massive energy expenditures. No vulnerability to gravitational distortions. He let the implications sink in before continuing. Humanity offers this advancement not as a threat, but as our contribution to galactic progress. The question is whether the Concordat is prepared to accept that technological advancement might follow multiple valid paths. Ambassador Miranda Okonkwo felt the weight of 87 alien gazes as she placed the small projection device on the quantum marble table. Its surface activated instantly, displaying a three-dimensional rendering of massive teleportation platforms under construction across 12 human worlds and orbital stations. Construction timeline is accelerated, she stated calmly. The Alpha platform on Mars will be operational within 30 standard days. Admiral Zexvor's membranes darkened with barely controlled agitation. This unilateral deployment of unproven technology violates 17 different Concordat safety protocols. Protocols that humanity never agreed to, Okonkwo countered smoothly, as we have yet to be granted membership status. We're merely developing our own transportation infrastructure. The Polarian delegation's lead representative, whose name translated roughly as Crystal Resonance in Harmony, leaned forward. The movement caused ripples of light to cascade through their crystalline exoskeleton. The technological implications extend far beyond simple transportation, they observed. The ability to transmit matter without receiving stations fundamentally alters military, economic, and exploratory paradigms throughout Concordat space. Okonkwo nodded, appreciating the Polarian's directness. Precisely why we believe partnership is the most beneficial approach for all parties. Admiral Zexvor made a slashing gesture that his species used to indicate rejection. The technology must be surrendered for proper evaluation. Your species has no concept of the dangers involved in abandoning established technological progression paths. Perhaps because those established paths were artificially constrained, Okonkwo suggested. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. The chamber grew unnaturally quiet as Tlaxu, the ancient Sephiran, abandoned diplomatic protocol and floated across the open space to position itself beside the human ambassador. The move sent ripples of shocked murmurs through the gathered representatives. I have accessed the sealed archives, Tlaxu announced, its thought tendrils projecting memories directly into the minds of everyone present. The shared vision was disorienting. Glimpses of a civilization called the progenitors who had once used electromagnetic principles to create technologies the modern Concordat had developed through entirely different means. Their cities floated on electromagnetic fields rather than gravitational anchors. Their transportation systems used principles remarkably similar to humanity's teleportation technology. There is not one path to knowledge, Tlaxu concluded, the vision fading gradually. And our fear of alternate paths has cost us millennia of potential advancement. Okonkwo maintained her composed expression despite her internal shock. The human delegation hadn't known about these progenitors. This revelation was as new to them as to most of the Concordat representatives. Admiral Zexvor recovered first. Ancient history doesn't change the present danger. Humanity's technology requires extensive safety validation before deployment. A reasonable concern, Okonkwo acknowledged. Switching tactics. We propose a joint oversight committee with representatives from all major Concordat species and Earth. Full transparency and shared research data. Before any could respond, every communication device in the hall activated simultaneously. Holographic displays materialized above each device, showing medical facilities across Concordat space. The images focused on patients from 17 different species, all showing signs of remarkable recovery. The Malosian ambassador's water sphere rippled with agitation. This is the neurological deterioration syndrome affecting our deep space explorers. There is no known treatment. There wasn't, Okonkwo corrected gently. Until now. Dr. Chen's face appeared on the central display. Though she appeared exhausted, her eyes reflected triumph. The quantum fields generated during teleportation have unexpected properties. When calibrated to specific neurological patterns, they neutralize the pathogen affecting multiple species throughout Concordat space. We discovered this accidentally during our Jupiter colony transport test. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Even Admiral Zexvor seemed momentarily speechless. Okonkwo seized the moment. Humanity doesn't seek to disrupt the Concordat's technological or political stability. We offer a partnership that benefits all species. She paused deliberately. However, we will continue developing our technology with or without Concordat approval. The choice before you isn't whether this technology exists. It's whether we explore its potential together or separately. Tlaxu's thought tendrils brightened. Ambassador Okonkwo speaks wisdom. Consider the implications carefully, esteemed colleagues. The progenitor's knowledge was lost because the early Concordat feared technological divergence. We now have an opportunity to reclaim that lost path of discovery. Several delegation heads began conferring urgently. The Polarian representative's crystalline form vibrated at frequencies indicating intense deliberation. We propose, the Polarian finally announced, the formation of a special technological integration council, equal representation from Earth and the Concordat founding species. Ambassador Okonkwo's transparency provisions accepted in principle. Okonkwo allowed herself a small smile. Not full acceptance, but a critical first step. Earth welcomes this proposal. Admiral Zexvor looked as though he might object, but the display showing recovering patience from his own species silenced whatever protest he had prepared. Instead, he simply stated, the Voskin hegemony registers its security concerns, but will participate in the council. As the representatives began drafting the formal agreement, Okonkwo's private communicator vibrated with an encrypted message from Dr. Wade. Bifurcation test extended to 50 simultaneous locations successful. Teleportation range now confirmed to 3 light years. Proceed accordingly. She kept her expression neutral as she absorbed the implications. Humanity's technology was advancing even faster than their diplomatic efforts. The balance of power was shifting with each successful experiment. Dr. Chen coughed as acrid smoke filled the collapsing corridor. The eastern sector's structural integrity was failing rapidly after the series of precisely timed explosions. Beside her, Ktheri's crystalline exoskeleton refracted emergency lighting into prismatic patterns across the walls. Life signs detected ahead, Ktheri announced. The Polarian's sensory appendages extended to their full length. Human. Elevated vital signs indicating distress. They rounded the corner to find 2 lab technicians trapped beneath fallen debris. Chen immediately assessed the situation. The support beam was too heavy for her to lift, but Ktheri's enhanced strength might be sufficient. Can you move it? She asked. The Polarian's crystalline structure reconfigured, redistributing mass to optimize leverage. Affirmative. As Ktheri lifted the beam, Chen helped extract the injured technicians. Head for emergency evacuation point 3, she instructed them. The route through hydroponics is still clear. Her neural implant pinged with an urgent security alert. The evacuation was proceeding too slowly, and the facility's automated systems had detected additional explosive devices on timers. We need to reach the quantum core, Chen told Ktheri as they continued deeper into the damaged section. Something about this attack pattern doesn't make sense. The Polarian's communicator crystallized, indicating incoming data. Security reports that the saboteur employed human access codes. Current evidence suggests internal compromise. Chen felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The knowledge exchange program had been vetted with unprecedented thoroughness. Every human participant had undergone extensive background checks and psychological profiling. That's impossible, she muttered, though even as she said it, her analytical mind was already processing the implications. They'd reached the central junction leading to the quantum core, only to find the access sealed by emergency protocols. Chen placed her palm against the biometric scanner, overriding the lockdown with her executive authorization. Dr. Chen, Ktheri said with unusual hesitation, I am detecting unusual electromagnetic patterns beyond this barrier, consistent with human teleportation field generation, but distorted. The door slid open to reveal the core chamber. and Elliot Yamada working frantically at the main control console. When he looked up, Chen was struck by the calm determination in his eyes. There was no hint of the brilliant, gentle scientist who had collaborated with her for the past 3 years. "Ileana," he acknowledged without surprise. "You should have evacuated with the others." "Elliot, what have you done?" she demanded, taking a cautious step forward. His hands continued their precise movements across the interface, preventing a mistake. Humanity isn't ready to be absorbed into their collective. Look what happened to the Archivers. Their identity, their uniqueness, erased. Theory's crystalline form shifted to a defensive configuration. "Dr. Yamada, please step away from the controls." Yamada's bitter laugh echoed in the chamber. "You don't understand what's at stake. My family died because we weren't prepared for alien pathogens. The Concordat's assistance came too late." His expression hardened. "Now they want our technology, our methods. They'll take everything that makes us human and incorporate it into their homogenized galactic culture." Chen saw Concordat security forces appearing at the far entrance. They were moving into position, weapons powered but not yet aimed. "This isn't the way, Elliot," she pleaded, recognizing the device he had attached to the core. "That's a molecular destabilizer. It won't just destroy the facility. It will create a runaway reaction, affecting everything within 50 kilometers. "I know exactly what it will do," he replied. His hand moved toward a small trigger device. Chen launched herself forward, but knew instantly she wouldn't reach him in time. The Deadman switch would activate the moment he released pressure on the trigger. Making a split-second decision that contradicted all safety protocols, Chen accessed her neural implant's emergency override and connected directly to the facility's experimental teleportation system. Calculating rapidly, she programmed the field to target the molecular structure of the explosive compound specifically. As Yamada's finger tightened on the trigger, Chen activated the untested protocol. A shimmering field enveloped the device, causing it to glow briefly before the explosive compounds simply vanished, teleported away in their raw molecular form. The backlash was immediate and devastating. Energy surged through the improperly shielded connection, overwhelming Chen's neural implant and sending arcs of feedback electricity across her body. She collapsed, her nervous system overwhelmed by the massive energy discharge. Through darkening vision, she saw Ctheri move with unexpected speed, the Polarian's normally rigid exoskeleton reconfiguring into a protective shell around her convulsing form. The last thing she registered before consciousness faded was the sensation of being lifted, the supposedly emotionless Polarian scientist cradling her with a gentleness that defied all cultural programming. Security forces subdued Yamada, but Ctheri ignored protocols requiring non-interference, carrying Chen's unconscious form directly to the medical bay. The Polarian moved with single-minded purpose, crystalline appendages maintaining constant contact with Chen's pulse points. "Neural stabilization required immediately," Ctheri announced upon bursting into the medical facility, startling the mixed-species medical team. "Priority override. This human saved approximately 3,417 lives." The lead physician, a Melosian floating in a specialized medical sphere, initiated emergency protocols without hesitation. As medical nanobots were deployed to stabilize Chen's damaged neural pathways, Ctheri maintained position beside the treatment pod, appendages still monitoring vital signs independently of the medical equipment. Throughout the facility, security cameras captured the unprecedented sight of a Polarian, a species renowned for emotional detachment and strict adherence to hierarchical protocols, physically carrying an injured human. The footage transmitted automatically to information networks across Concordat space, revealing a moment of cross-species compassion that no official cultural exchange program could have engineered. Admiral Zexvor's unauthorized battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace with predatory grace, weapons systems already locked on Earth's orbital defenses. The 17 Voskin dreadnoughts formed a perfect tactical sphere, their gravitational drives distorting nearby space in ways that scrambled standard sensors. From the command deck of the Earth Defense Vessel Prometheus Admiral Rise watched the tactical display with outward calm that belied her racing thoughts. The hastily assembled coalition of vessels from 11 Concordat species had responded to Earth's emergency broadcast with surprising speed, but their formation was ragged. These ships had never trained together. Transmission from the Sephirin vessel, Lieutenant Commander Park announced. They're positioning themselves between us and the Voskin fleet. The massive temple ship commanded by Tulaxu glided forward, its ancient hull glowing with energies that defied conventional analysis. The vessel's very presence sent ripples of unease through both fleets. Sephirin ships hadn't taken military action in over 4 millennia. Open a channel to all vessels, Rise ordered. Standard diplomatic frequencies. Before she could speak, Admiral Zexvor's image appeared on the main display. His membrane colors shifted rapidly, a sign of intense emotional states that the translator struggled to interpret. This intervention is authorized by the Concordat Security Council, he declared. Earth's continued development of unrestricted teleportation technology represents an existential threat to galactic stability. Reyes noted the subtle reaction among her alien allies, uncertainty and confusion. That's a lie, Admiral. The Security Council issued no such authorization. We have confirmation from 7 council members. Zexvor's membranes darkened. The council has been compromised by human sympathizers. We act to preserve the proper order of technological progression. Tulaxu's vessel moved closer, its ancient weapons systems activating for the first time in recorded history. The Sephirin's voice resonated directly in the minds of all present. The Voskin Admiral's actions are unauthorized and based on corrupted judgment. Tulaxu communicated. We stand with humanity against this aggression. Rai studied the tactical display intently. Something about the Voskin fleet formation troubled her. Their positioning was textbook perfect, but the energy signatures emanating from their flagship showed unusual fluctuations, patterns she recognized from Dr. Wade's research. She opened a secure channel to Wade at the Earth Electromagnetic Research Division. Doctor, I'm sending you energy readings from the Voskin flagship. They match the anomalous patterns we detected during Experiment 17. Wade's response came quickly. Impossible. Those patterns only appear when electromagnetic fields interact with. Oh God, they've been infiltrated. Explain, Rise demanded, her mind already racing ahead to tactical implications. Remember how our teleportation fields affected that unknown neurological pathogen? We've been studying why. The pathogen isn't biological. It's energy-based. It feeds on gravitational manipulation fields, the exact technology the Concordat has been developing for millennia. Rice felt a chill as the pieces aligned. You're saying there's some kind of parasite affecting the Voskin? Not just affecting, controlling. These readings suggest massive energy constructs inhabiting their gravitational systems. They're non-corporeal entities that have been influencing technological development across the galaxy, pushing species toward gravitational technologies that sustain them. The implications staggered her, and our electromagnetic technology threatens them. Exactly. It doesn't produce the energy patterns they feed on. Worse, our teleportation fields disrupt their cohesion. We didn't cure a disease with our technology. We exorcised parasites. Rise made her decision instantly. Prepare a system-wide broadcast on all frequencies. I need visual confirmation of these entities. She opened the emergency channel to all vessels. This is Admiral Alina Rise of Earth Defense. We have evidence that Admiral Zexvor and possibly his entire crew are under external influence. Our sensors have detected non-corporeal entities inhabiting their gravitational systems. The Voskin Admiral's reaction was immediate and violent. Ridiculous human propaganda. We will not be deterred by. His transmission cut off mid-sentence as Reyes activated the specially modified sensor array. The enhanced electromagnetic pulse was harmless to physical beings, but illuminated energy patterns normally invisible to sensors. The results were broadcast to every vessel simultaneously. Massive, writhing energy constructs could clearly be seen detaching from the Voskin flagship, ethereal shapes reminiscent of deep-sea predators, their tendrils embedded deep within the ship's gravitational systems and extending into the command deck itself. "By the first light," gasped the Polarian captain, the translator barely managing to capture the religious reverence in the exclamation. On the Voskin flagship's bridge, Admiral Zexvor collapsed, his neural systems temporarily overwhelmed as the entity detached. When he regained consciousness moments later, his membrane colors had shifted dramatically. What have I done?" he whispered, horror evident even through the translation. They were in my mind, directing my thoughts, amplifying my suspicions of human technology. Talaxu's mental voice resonated through all communication channels. "I have accessed the deepest archives. There are references to these entities, the graviton-dependent intelligences. Ancient warnings about them were mistranslated as cautionary tales against technological divergence." Reyes seized the moment. "This isn't about human versus Concordat technology. This is about an ancient threat none of us recognized. Our teleportation technology doesn't just transport matter. It disrupts these entities' ability to maintain cohesion in our dimension." The tactical situation had transformed completely. The Voskin ships, their commanders now freed from influence, powered down weapon systems. Admiral Zexvor, shaken but resolute, opened a channel to Reyes. "Admiral," he said, formal membranes extended in a gesture of profound apology, "I request an emergency session of the full Concordat, not to judge humanity, but to prepare the galaxy for a threat none suspected existed." Dr. Eliana Chen stood before the assembled Concordat representatives, the luminescent scars tracing neural pathways across her temples and neck glowing faintly under the Grand Chamber's lights. The massive holographic display behind her showed thousands of teleportation platforms across Concordat space, their status indicators shifting from standby amber to operational blue in synchronized waves. "The integrated electromagnetic network is now fully operational," she announced, her voice steady despite the momentous occasion. All 47 member species contributed to its design and implementation. This represents the most extensive cooperative technological project in Concordat history. The chamber, once the site of heated debates about technological orthodoxy, now hummed with anticipatory energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched as the activation sequence progressed through the final stages. High Admiral Zexvor, his position reinstated after the revelation of external influence, stepped forward to stand beside Chen. The gesture, a Voskin military leader alongside a human scientist, carried symbolic weight that transcended words. "The network will do more than revolutionize transportation," he stated, membranous voice flaps modulating to convey formal respect. "As discovered during our preliminary tests, the electromagnetic fields generated by these platforms disrupt the energy patterns of the graviton-dependent intelligences, forcing them from their hiding places within our gravitational infrastructure." The main display shifted to show the Voskin homeworld. As its platform activated, gasps rippled through the assembly. Luminescent parasitic entities became visible throughout the planet's gravitational stabilizers, orbital platforms, and even personal transportation devices. The entities writhed as the teleportation field expanded, their ethereal forms destabilizing as they were forced into the visible spectrum. Similar purges are occurring across 17 core systems, Dr. Wade reported from his position at the monitoring station. The entities appear most concentrated in regions with the highest gravitational technology usage. Talaxu's thought tendrils pulse with colors indicating profound realization. They have been among us for millennia, subtly influencing our technological development paths. The prohibition against electromagnetic advancement was their creation, a means of ensuring their food source remained abundant while preventing discovery of technologies that could harm them. Admiral Reyes, now bearing the insignia of the Joint Human Concordat Defense Fleet, transmitted confirmation from her flagship. Defense vessels report entity purges across all monitored systems. No casualties or system failures beyond temporary gravitational fluctuations. The technology that had once divided them had become their salvation. Chen felt a profound sense of vindication as she observed representatives from species that had initially demanded containment or confiscation of human technology, now witnessing its benefits firsthand. The image on the display shifted to Mars, where the newly established Technological Plurality Academy occupied a sprawling complex in Valles Marineris. 300 students from 64 species engaged in animated discussions, their diverse anatomies gathered around workstations where electromagnetic and gravitational principles were being studied in tandem. Dr. Wade moved through the classrooms, occasionally pausing to observe particularly intense debates. A junior Voskin researcher had taken the podium, her presentation capturing everyone's attention. By combining gravitational manipulation with electromagnetic acceleration, she explained, mandibles clicking with excitement, we can create harmonized field effects that neither technology could achieve independently. Wade recognized the significance immediately. Not human technological superiority, but true collaborative innovation. Exactly what he had hoped for when he'd agreed to open Earth's research to galactic scrutiny. As the first civilian teleportation lines opened for general use, citizens across the galaxy approached the platforms with mixtures of curiosity and trepidation. The simple insignia displayed prominently at each station had become universally recognized, a human handprint overlapping with dozens of alien appendages, forming a spiral that pointed toward an unlimited future. In her private quarters adjoining the Concordat chamber, Ambassador Okonkwo reviewed the latest proposals from the Scientific Integration Council. The document before her outlined research initiatives that would have been unimaginable just 1 year earlier, collaborative projects combining previously segregated technological approaches. To think, she remarked to Chen as the scientist joined her, that railgun technology was once considered primitive by Concordat standards. Chen smiled, her neural implant, rebuilt with combined human and Polarian technology, glowing softly as she accessed the latest network data. Railguns first, teleporters next. Who knows what we'll develop together now that we're free from manipulation? On the observation deck of his research vessel orbiting a distant pulsar, Tulaxu communed silently with the ancient records of the Sephirin continuity. The databases that predated the Concordat itself were being updated with new entries describing the graviton-dependent intelligences and humanity's role in revealing their existence. The ancient beings' thought tendrils formed patterns expressing concepts beyond translation, satisfaction at witnessing the correction of an ancient mistake, hope for novel developmental pathways, and gratitude for the technological divergence that had seemed so threatening just 1 year earlier. As the teleportation network expanded to its full operational capacity, the final entities were driven from their hiding places throughout Concordat space. The age of artificial technological constraint had ended. Species that had developed along carefully managed paths for millennia were now free to explore alternatives, combining approaches that complemented rather than competed with one another. The first recreational civilian travelers stepped onto teleportation platforms, their molecules disassembled and reassembled across vast distances in seconds, each journey representing the triumph of collaborative innovation over enforced orthodoxy. And deep in the void between galaxies, the expelled entities gathered, diminished but not destroyed, seeking new feeding grounds beyond the reach of electromagnetic disruption. Unaware that the newly unified technological approach of the Concordat was already developing detection systems capable of tracking their migration.